All right, this is going to be a bit of a different video because today I'm going to share with you the inside my mind, like the behind the scenes, what my thinking process and decision making process is when scaling a new agency to that, let's say, 20K a month mark. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is I just recently partnered up with a guy who runs an agency on a revenue share basis. If you're an agency owner and you want to partner with me, you can click the link below. I'm only taking on a couple more people for this month. Anyways, we digress. And we came up with a game plan of how to get him to 20K a month as fast as like humanly possible. Now, granted, for a bit of context, he already had an offer. He already had, a couple clients, a couple like 1 or 2 case studies. Nothing crazy worth, making a whole website over, etc. Just kind of like the basics. Already had a bit of understanding of delivery, had a pretty good offer, etc. Right? So he kind of had the basics down. And so, I guess to bring you inside my mind, what I do when scaling an agency is the first thing I want to do is I want to get a gauge of the numbers, right? I want to get a gauge of like, okay, where are we at, right? Like I want to know as much about the agency, the backstory and everything else as possible, so I feel like I'm just as much of a co-founder as he is, right? Especially when we're partnering up on a revenue share basis. I really want to get in that role of understanding every little nitty gritty thing about the business, right? And so what that mainly pertains to is the data, right? What is our numbers? What is our average appointments per day, per week, per month? What is our show up rate? What is our cost per book call? What is our cost per show? What is our cost per qualified call? What is our closing rate overall? What is our closing rate per qualified call? What is our closing rate per showed call? What is our offer rate? What is our pitch rate? What is our LTV? What is our average cash collection? What is our cost per acquisition? What is our LTV? Like there's so many different numbers I want to know, right? And the reason why I want to know all this data is in order for me to scale an agency, you have to solve something, right? Like fundamentally, the reason why someone isn't at 20K is because there is an issue, right? There's some bottleneck stopping them from getting to 20K. And so my goal is to figure out what is that bottleneck, right? And I don't want to be subjective. I don't want to guess well, I think it's this. No, I want to be objective by looking at the numbers and seeing with data, hey, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And so I want to collect as much data as possible. Now, this guy I was working with didn't necessarily have the data. And so the first week, the first thing we did is we made an entire data template tracker that I gave him, and we started tracking the data for what it is that we're currently doing. Now, after about a week, we don't have a ton of data, but we have some data to operate off of to figure out where are we going wrong? Why are we not at 20K, right? Is it an offer problem? Is it an employment problem? Is it a sales problem? Is it a setting problem? Is it a delivery problem? Is it an onboarding problem, right? Is it a acquisition problem? Like, where is the problem, right? And so once we identify the problem, then we can solve it, because there's this concept called theory of constraints, which is that a system will only operate up to its weakest constraint, right? It's like with teams, right? You're only as good as your weakest link, and same with business. And so you could have the best service delivery in the world, right? You could have the best salesperson in the world, right? You could even have the best offer and the best appointment setting in the world. But if you have a 0% show up rate, it doesn't matter. You won't make any money because you are not getting people on calls. And therefore, the constraint of your business is the show up rate. And there's other constraints as well, like maybe perhaps your cost per book call isn't that good. Perhaps your marketing isn't that good. Perhaps your qualification process isn't that good. Perhaps your landing page conversion rate isn't that good. But so long as you have some flow coming in, no matter if your show up rate, no matter how good these other metrics are, or how bad they are, if your show up rate percent is at 0, you're still never going to close clients. And therefore, the theory of constraints says that you should fix that because that'll make everything else work easier. Now, to give you a bit of a better idea how, in business, there's always going to be multiple things that have problems, right? Maybe your show up rate's a problem, and your close rate, and your setting rate, and your delivery rate, and your onboarding, and you might have a bunch of problems at once. The way I figure out what one I want to fix first is I ask myself a very, very simple question. If I were only able to fix one of these, and it had to produce the best ROI and make all the other problems easier, which would it be? And typically speaking, it's the problem that's either the biggest or the problem that comes first, right? For example, if your cost per book call is super, super high, right? So your setting may not be that good. It doesn't matter how bad your show rate or your qualifying rate or how your close rate or even how good it is. If it costs $1,000 to book a call, it doesn't matter how good or bad these metrics are. That's the thing you need to fix, right? Even with a 25% show up rate, right? At $1,000 cost per book call, 25% show up rate is not good. At $1,000 cost per book call, you wouldn't want to fix the show up rate first. You want to fix the $1,000 cost per book call, because if you bring the $1,000 cost per book call down to $100, you will 10x your lead flow. You will 10x your appointments, 10x your sales, 10x your shows without even changing anything on the back end. Right, which is why typically we want to fix things that are at the beginning of the funnel first. Anyways, so scaling this business, right, that's the first thing. I want to know the numbers. I want to know the numbers so I can identify the constraint. Once I've identified a constraint, then we're going to make a game plan to fix that constraint and scale. And so fundamentally, getting to 20K a month is actually quite simple if you think about it, right? Let's say you have an offer that's, let's just say for ease of numbers, let's just say it's 2K. 2K upfront and whatever else the retainer is on the back end. 2K upfront. That would mean that you would have to sell 10 clients per month to get to 20K per month, right? Assuming you have nothing on the back end, no retainer, it's just, no performance, just a one-time thing. You'd have to sell 10 clients per month. So in order to get to that 20K cash collected month, you would have to close 10 clients. So if you think, well, how would we close 10 clients? Well, we can just reverse engineer this process. Go, well, in order to close 10 clients, if we close that statistically, here's where data comes into play. We close that statistically 25%. It means we would have to have 4x the showed and technically qualified calls, right, to close the 10 clients. So we would have to have, let's just say, 40 showed calls. Out of 40 showed calls, you close at 25%, boom, that's 10 clients, right? So you'd have to have 40 showed calls. Let's say your show up rate is 50%, you would have to have 80 book calls for that month, right? And if you know your cost per booked call, for example, is $100, 100 times 80. Just do the math, right? And so 100 times 80, if my math is correct, you add 2 zeros to the 80, that would be $8,000. So you have to spend $8,000 on ads in order to make the 20K, right? Now, that poses a little bit of a problem. Your ROAS is not that good. It's barely over 2. And so what we can start to do is look at, well, where's the biggest bottleneck, right? Like, where is it our closing rate? Is it our show-up rate? Is it our cost per book call? Like, where is the problem? And once you find out where the problem is, you're going to fix it. And so to kind of wrap this up, and I just want to share, like, inside my mind how I think about when partnering up with someone new. Once again, if you're an agency owner, you want to apply to partner with me, I don't take on everyone. There's a link below. You can chat on my personal calendar, okay? But what I think through is this kind of stuff. And I want to figure out what's stopping us from hitting 20K. Because most people are like, oh, I'm not at 20K. And if I ask them why, they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, how can you ever expect, let's say if you're flying to New York, how could you ever expect to fly to New York if you don't even know how to get to New York? Or if you don't know what's stopping you from getting to New York, if you don't even know where it is. And so when I ask most people, hey, why aren't you at 20K? They go, oh, I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? How are you going to expect to get there if you don't even know what's stopping you from getting in the first place? And so in order to get anywhere, you have to know what's going wrong, which is why the first thing I do and how I scale to 20K, right, with all the agencies or even beyond 40, 50, whatever K a month is simply finding the numbers, right? And once we have the numbers, it's finding the constraint and then fixing the constraint. That's it. Right? It's very simple. And the reason, like, this may not sound sexy, whatever, but like the truth is it's actually just simple. It's not, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's simple. But most people try and overcomplicate it, think business needs to be fancy, needs to be, sunshine and rainbows. It's not. Business, more often than not, is boring. And so if your business is boring, it means you're probably doing something right. Like, majority of the guys I work with, right, that are making 10K plus, it's the same thing every day. Set and close appointments, service clients, manage team. Like, that's it. It's super boring. It's the same thing every single day, right? It's like bodybuilders getting in shape. It's the same meals every single day, the same workouts every single week. It's the same. It's boring, right? But boring works. Boring works. Simple as that. So I hope you enjoyed this type of video. If you like this inside the mind and you want me to share more of my thought process when going through things, I even have a video on inside my mind as I build a cold client script. If you like this kind of stuff, let me know below. I will do more videos like this where I share inside my mind as I am, scaling the agencies that I'm currently partnered up with or more things of that sort.